So nearby Braddles, what is the most you've ever wanted a toy?
Braddles?
I like it.
I like it.
Hashtag keep Braddles.
Hashtag Braddles.
Hashtag Braddles.
What's the most you've ever wanted a toy? And which one was it?
Oh, God. You're making me dig back into my memory banks here. I mean, I was super into Power Rangers.
Did you want a Megazord?
Yeah.
Did you ever get a Megazord?
Yeah.
You lucky fuck! I wanted a Megazord! Damn it!
Dragon Lord.
We also had a Dragonzord.
As we've discussed on this channel before, the 90s was a time where people were willing to, quite literally, throw hands over a small sack of beans shaped like an elephant. And while you think that was one of those things that had only happened once in history, it actually happened twice. Although the second time it happened with a cuddly little toy of Elmo that giggled when he was tickled.
I'm getting Turbo Man vibes from this.
Yes, which we referenced when we talked about the Beanie Baby craze. I think that was me and Nisha talked about that a couple of years ago now. So the Beanie Baby craze was, as you might expect, like during the height of Beanie Baby mania, which is what it was called. Just people were willing to, like, you know, they would fight. There were fist fights, people would fly across the country, people would go to international airports just to go into the airport, buy all the Beanie Babies they had, and then fly back and sell them at a profit. And it was all fueled entirely by speculation, and as we revealed in that video, which you can find at a link below, I imagine, one lady who just made shit up. And she'd just say, oh, this Beanie Baby's worth this much money, and then would like look on eBay, see that it was worth that much money. And usually the one she was saying was worth that much is the one she'd bought hundreds of. Which
Weird that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird that, and she'd like, you know, sold, like, you know, made thousands of dollars in profit selling these Beanie Babies for an exorbitant amount. But same thing like, you know, Bitcoin, when Bitcoin was getting big and people like getting all in. So what do I do getting on Bitcoin, get on Bitcoin?
We talked before about Star Wars merch.
Yep, Star Wars merch as well. Like, you know, people heard those stories about, like, you know, oh, Star Wars merch back from the day. It's worth thousands now. Prequel trilogy, let's buy 8,000 Jar Jar Binks toys, and which is an idea that can work, but not when 10,000 other people have the exact same idea.
It's such a creepy garage, wouldn't it? Just full of Jar Jar Binks.
Imagine you walk in and you see that and you go, this is my retirement fund. It's the same thing with Beanie Babies, where there were people who were like, there's a really depressing like mini documentary on YouTube somewhere, where it's like the kid of a parent who spent their college fund on Beanie Babies.
Oh.
And they're just walking through the house and it's like, this is my college fund. And the parent's like, no, don't worry, it's going to bounce back any day now. And it's like, the Tickle Me Elmo craze was similar, but it wasn't fueled as much by speculation as just rampant, feverish demand. So do you remember Tickle Me Elmo at all? 'Cause it wasn't really a thing over here. More an American thing.
I don't remember it from like my own life, but I've definitely seen a lot of memes and references to it.
Yes, because it was it's a Turbo Man. It was a Turbo Man-esque situation where I think the Turbo Man moment in Jingle All the Way is informed, at least somewhat, by the craze of parents trying to get their hands on Tickle Me Elmo. So what do you know about Tickle Me Elmo, like, you know, as a toy? Because like, its story itself is quite interesting.
I mean, isn't it just a fun little plush of Elmo that when you tickle it, it laughs?
Yes, but do you know what it started life as? Because the Tickle Me Elmo is not the original Tickle Me toy. There was actually two variations, one of which is not great, and the other of which I wish was the one that got made.
Oh, God, when you say not great, it's going to be offensive in some way, isn't it?
No, it was just a chimp. Oh. It was like, it wasn't a branded character, it was just Tickle Me Chimp. And it had the same basic mechanics as the Tickle Me Elmo, like you tickle it, it responds by giggling and like moving around. And the guys who invented it was two legendary toy makers known as Greg Hyman and Rob Dubren, and they pitched this to several companies, all of which turned it down because like, it's a cool idea, but without a brand, we're not going to be able to sell it. So the brand they got was the Looney Tunes one, and they made, and what character do you think would be the best one to turn into a Tickle Me toy?
Taz?
You got it right!
Yes!
They made a Tickle Me Taz, a little Tickle Me Tasmanian Devil that would make the noise, and then blah, blah, blah. And I like Tasmanian Devil, my favourite Looney Tunes cat. I fucking love Taz. Tickle Me Taz, that sounds great.
Yeah, I'd love one of those.
And apparently it was a toy that did get made, but in very limited numbers, and they sold them at a couple of Universal stores, I think Universal Orlando. Got like a couple thousand Tickle Me Tazzers, and a few stores dotted about LA got like a handful of them. They didn't sell very well. So those are now very valuable collectors. If you happen to have one, or know someone who does, maybe like, you know, pop that shit on eBay because it's very rare and it's, you know, a part of like toy history because that was the precursor to Tickle Me Elmo. And the story goes that Warner Bros. Is Warner Bros. On Looney Tunes, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because like they were in that fucking shitty Space Jam movie.
Oh, God.
Like nothing made me like my heart sink lower than seeing like Wile E. Coyote in Space Jam 2. I've got a big teddy of Wile E. Coyote. It was like my favourite childhood toy, and as I got older, because it had like posable limbs, it was really good for like practicing WWF moves on.
I honestly was expecting you to go down the Greg Davis route then.
I didn't know which way that was going to go.
What's that?
Have you not heard about...
It was going to be sexual or not.
No. It's just like, 'cause it was like about like 4 foot tall. So me and my brother, we could set it up for like wrestling moves because it had like posable limbs. So you could set up like choke slams and stuff like that.
But Greg Davis has a story about how his mum made him this like 5 foot tall blue bear, and when he was a teenager, he fucked it.
I would never do that to Wile E. That's my beloved childhood toy. Like, no, Wile E, yeah, it was good for like, a wrestling match, but not that kind of wrestling, not the horizontal kind.
Hello lovely viewers. Karl 2.0 here. I've taken over this video to talk about today's sponsor. Beep beep boop boop, Eyes Robot.
So today's sponsor is a company called Established Titles, and what they do is you can buy a small parcel of land up in Scotland, which gives you a title. And I think we're all familiar with the kind of companies that do this. But the twist here, which I quite like, is that when you buy a patch of land and a title through these guys, that funds the planting of a tree. And I did my due diligence here, and Established Titles do work with registered charities, both of which will be listed in a fact bar below. So you will get an official certificate in the mail, and you'll get that, and that does confer upon you a title, which allow you to use, and I have it written here, you can officially put Lord or Lady as the prefix to your name. If you follow the link below, the patch of land that you get will be located as geographically close to the patch of land where the Lord or Lady of Fact Fiend is located. So we will in effect have a small Fact Fiend kingdom. And everyone who buys one will also help plant a tree, which means that they will not only be contributing to the Fact Fiend empire, but helping create a literal small wood. Can you see why I took this sponsorship? I'm not sure if you guys have heard me talk about this in the past, but I've often said that when I die, I'm going to bequeath some of the money that I have to protect a patch of land. So that will become Karl Smallwood's small wood. And this is literally allowing me to realise one of my bucket lists items by creating a small wood. So we will have Karl Smallwood's small wood and the beginnings of the Fact Fiend empire up there in Scotland. Now, we're getting a little off track.
Yeah, Elmo.
They lost the Looney Tunes license, and they were worried, like, what do we do now? Like, we're not going to be able to sell any of this toy. But fortunately, they managed to get the Sesame Street license, and that's where they decided, like, fuck it, Elmo.
Out of interest, were there any other Tickle Me Sesame Street characters, or was it just Elmo?
It was just Elmo, yeah. They decided Elmo. Elmo's, like, front and center on Sesame. Everyone loves Elmo. He's the most popular character. He's the easiest to, translate to this, medium of, Tickle Me toy. It's also, as well, his voice is very, friendly, child friendly. Also, the idea of him being tickled and giggling, that's a very Elmo thing to do.
Just in Turbo Man when they were like, oh, do you not want Buster? It's like, no!
No, it's Booster.
Booster,
That's how bad it is. Even you don't remember how bad it is. And I just love that bit. It's like, nobody likes Booster. Boy, he fucks that guy up. Anyway, Tickle Me Elmo, when they made Tickle Me Elmo, it was expected to be quite popular. But do you know why it got super popular? Would you like to hazard a guess at what they did that sent it into, the must-have toy for the season?
I'm going to guess that they said it was a limited run. That's what they normally do.
It wasn't that, no. It's they made 1 million of them, so a pretty decent amount for, this new untested toy. Admittedly from a popular brand, but, 1 million of them is a pretty decent amount. For America, the market, 250 million people. Half of them have got kids. So, 40, 50 million kids. 1 in every 50 kids are going to want one of these things. But what they did is they sent one to Rosie O'Donnell. And she showed it on the Rosie O'Donnell show. And they didn't realise that Rosie O'Donnell fucking loved Elmo, and so did her child. And so rather than, they sent it to her for a plug, and they didn't expect the plug that she did to be so enthusiastic. So they thought, we'll send her one. She's like, oh, here's a Tickle Me Elmo doll. Isn't it cool? She did a 10-minute segment about how good this doll was and how much her child loved it. And then they sent 200 more for every member of the audience. And that entire segment ended up being way more than the company had expected. And you mentioned Turbo Man. And what happens when Arnold Schwarzenegger goes looking for a Turbo Man?
Many shenanigans occur.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that happens is that he gets to a store surrounded by a crowd of people looking for the same toy.
Yeah, and then what happens when they open the doors?
They trample each other trying to get to this toy.
Yeah, that actually happened with Tickle Me Elmo. There was
Please tell me no one died.
The guy didn't die, but he did have a few cracked ribs and serious injuries to the point he had to take a few weeks, if not months, off work because he was holding a Tickle Me Elmo. He was putting that bit in The Simpsons when the Malibu Stacy, when he put the last one on the shelf. Just the crowd of people bum rushed him and just stomped him.
It's not Tickle Me anymore, is
Yeah.
it?
Just boot me in the arse. It's we never got just step on me mummy Elmo. Maybe we should. Yes, harder. What? How many Tickle Me Elmos are programmed wrong where you instead of tickle it, you choke it and it just says harder, daddy, and you're like, what?
If we go back to Turbo Man as an example,
Yes.
The efforts that Schwarzenegger went to in that film to get a Turbo Man.
Yeah, he becomes Turbo Man. Yeah. he becomes the character to get a Turbo Man doll.
But before that, he breaks into a radio station. He goes to a bootleg Santa workshop.
Yeah, and
so
fights the big show.
So are there any stories like that?
Yeah, there was a radio station, quite similarly, who did a giveaway where they strapped a Tickle Me Elmo to the front of a guy who was jumping out of a plane.
Oh no!
And what they said is the first person to grab it gets to keep it 6 days before Christmas. And that guy didn't even touch the ground before he was tackled.
Did he survive?
No, he survived, but that's he didn't even make it to the ground. People tackle him out of midair to grab it.
I'm picturing World War Z
That's
with
the thing,
piles of people.
That's the thing is imagine you're all that guy and you're coming out, oh, this is a fun marketing stunt. And just the closer he gets to the ground, the more people he sees. And then obviously there were scalpers who were selling for thousands of dollars. People went into fist fights over them. There were many reports, which I could not confirm, but still want to talk about because they're quite funny. People being held up at gunpoint for their Elmos near Christmas from desperate parents. Which, you know what? That's bad, but if you're a fucking scalper, I fail to just assign blame in that. If you're a guy who does that dick move of buying 20 of these things and selling them for $1,000 a piece, you've got to expect that one of the people who's buying it is going to be pissed.
The most karmic story I heard about that was the people in America who at the start of lockdown, the coronavirus pandemic, bought all of the hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
And not only did nobody buy it from them, I think they then got prosecuted for it.
Yeah, there was that guy who bought $10,000 worth, and he's like, well, I'm just a small businessman. I'm just fulfilling a demand, a gap in the market. It's you created the gap in the market. Because the story was he went around to every small town pharmacy he could find and bought out their entire supply before news got to them of the pandemic and rationing, that sort of thing. And the government was like, you know what? In this case, fuck you in particular, and just took it all off him and just didn't give him any money back for it. But yeah, that's how Elmo resulted in a bunch of people getting almost kicked to death.
Yay, Elmo! I happen to have my favourite childhood toy in the flat with me.
You do? Okay. What is it?
It's this. I'll throw it to you.
Okay. This is a beloved childhood. Oh, that's kind of cute. What is it?
It's a zebra. It's called Zebby.
Oh, is this a Beanie Baby knockoff sort of thing?
I think it is a Beanie Baby.
Oh, it feels too small to be a Beanie Baby. I think Beanie Babies are slightly large. That's very cute.
It used to have more seeds in it. It opened at one point. It opened at one point and its fillings fell out.
And that's the thing about childhood toys of it doesn't matter how ratty, how ugly and disgusting and broken it's still your favourite childhood toy. And I will throw Zebby back as carefully as I'm able to. There we are. That's the story. And I think the story I told it's not my favourite childhood toy, but it's the one people in the comments probably mention. If I don't, it's my big spiky dinosaur. It's not
the legendary.
That wasn't my favourite toy. It's just a very funny story from my childhood. I think my favourite toy probably was one of my Action Men. I love my Action Men. Me and my brothers would frisbee them into trees and play with them. We'd have missions with our Action Men, and I had one particular Action Man that I liked, so much so that when his leg fell off, because I kept frisbeeing into trees, I put him in a swimsuit, or it was a wetsuit, and the stretching of fabric kept his leg on, and that actually made him quite good. So when he was fighting Dr. X, is it Dr. X?
I think it is Dr. X.
I don't remember that, but it's not Professor X. I think it's Doc with the green hand.
I think it's Dr. X.
Yeah, whenever he'd fight him, I'd grab him by his broken leg and swing him fucking round like flail. Well, actually, no, my Action Man, because what I do is in my building, there's like a glass partition that leads into the building where people usually. It's just there to like lighting, see your entranceway.
Yeah.
But everyone on my floor, and everyone in my building, puts like something silly in that. So there's a few people who have like the one is like cardboard cuts of Dan DeVito. Like everyone has, there's like 5 cardboard cuts of Dan DeVito in my building, but one of them has like, the one that I like is someone who has a big fucking like dinosaur, like the Brontosaurus, like leaning on a potted plant. Someone has like this giant golden statue like Guan Yu, like the Chinese warlord, and then I have just a rolling thing of just different toys that I have. So initially it was Randy Savage fighting some skeletons, and at the moment it is one of my Action Men side kicking Dr. X in the balls, and I'll send a picture of it when you edit this video. So you can ask, and that'll be like so people knock on my door, they see that. And also, if anyone's wondering, here's a picture of me playing with my Action Men when I went to my dad's house. And he said, son, do you want any of these? And pulled out like 15 Action Men I never knew he still had. And I'm like, yes, Action Man!
We have down the allotment that my mum keeps, there's a box that's full of a lot of our old childhood toys. Because they got to a point where we didn't want to throw them out, so we went and just kept them there. And then whenever the kids of the family go down, they can play with the toys.
Yeah.
The most recent time I went there, I was like, oh, I'm going to go through the box and re-experience some of my childhood. Dead rat in the box.
Brad's favourite toy, dead rat.
Oh, we came from a poor family. All we had to play with were the dead rats.
That's things like, there's a picture that got took of me, and it's me playing with, and I'm like, the smile on my face is so, I'm like, it's my Action Man! I thought these were gone forever! My Action Man! Bring Action Man back. You can kick G.I. Joe's fucking ass any day of the week. G.I. Joe's like that big, Action Man's like that fucking big. I'm right.